What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Set, Bet, Spike. This is not a volleyball show. This is an NFL show. Chris Meaney and Eric Young here with you on FTN Network, presented by Game Plus Network. Appreciate those who are hanging out with us live on our FTN Network YouTube page. If you are indeed, smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there. Today, we are previewing the NFC South. We have the South to wrap up, and then we will conclude with the NFC North on Thursday. And then we'll be done the NFC, and we will switch gears and talk about the AFC. We're just a couple weeks away from week one of the NFL season. We're starting to hear all kinds of craziness in camp, EY. We had our first preseason game where Josh Jacobs played, and everybody freaked out because he had two series that he was involved with at the Hall of Fame game. And you took part, I think, in your first NFL draft, courtesy of Jake Seeley in the Flex Leagues. Yes, was that?
Yeah, I've done a couple. I mean, you did the Scott Fish. That's kind of the right. Unofficial kickoff of the NFL fantasy season. And I've been in the Flex draft for 5 or 6 years. Jake does an amazing job. He does. A bunch of amazing dudes and amazing people get together, and we have a blast. It's all these pros, and I'm there too. And my flight, I was at the airport at 3:30 on Friday, and my flight got canceled as I was getting ready to board it. And there was no way for me to get to New York before the draft even started. So the draft, by the time I got to New York on Saturday, the draft would have been over. So I ended up not going and having to do it online, which sucks. My team is really weird. It's a really hard draft. It's all pros. And most of these guys, I'm at a disadvantage because I watch hockey. I'm not ashamed to say it. I go all the way through to the Stanley Cup. By the time the Stanley Cup's done, like Jeff Radcliffe he knows every player on every team. It's hard, man. It's hard, and I've got my team is real weird. I'm either going to win or I'm going to be in last place.
Well, that's all right. You shoot for upside, right? That's it. You're shooting for upside. You're either going to take it down or you're not. I mean, you're here to win it. If you come last, whatever. If you come second, you still pretty much came last because you didn't win. It's all about winning, right? I mean, I guess you get the credit for coming second.
The one thing we've harvested from both Dangle Bet Sally and Set Bet Spike is we have super intelligent listeners. The reality is they're contributors too. Like, I'm learning stuff every day on this show from you and from the people that watch it. So here's the lineup, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but this is the quick lineup.
Jay's in the house too, who was at Flex and took part. Didn't get a chance to meet you, he just said. But next year, hopefully, we're all together in the same room. I've been there before with you, drafting live at Flex and Sirius. Hopefully, we're all together and it works out. Man, flights are crazy. Jay, we appreciate you. Also, a handsome dude. G-Man Jay was on Mean Streets last week. Okay, let's hear your team. Let's hear your squad. I'll write this down, see what you got.
Okay, Josh Allen, quarterback.
Oh, Allen, right off the hop.
Real good. Christian McCaffrey. I started the draft 1 of 1. Christian McCaffrey.
Oh,
please,
CMC.
God,
Boom.
don't get hurt. James Conner.
Okay.
And this is where it gets weird.
Okay.
DK Metcalf. Could be a massive mistake.
5 TDs, 4 games with Geno last year.
Michael Thomas. If this was 2018, I'd be very happy. But at this juncture, I'm unclear how I feel. Traylon Burks.
Okay. Traylon running routes the wrong way, apparently. Yeah.
Dawson Knox. Elijah Moore. Rashard Penny. Broncos defense. And I got Darrell Williams, Khalil Herbert, Ramondre Stevenson, KJ Hamler, Brian Edwards, and Nico Collins on my bench.
Okay. You got some like kind of sneaky little late wide receivers like KJ, Collins. I like Stevenson as a breakout. We talked about him on Mean Streets yesterday. Herbert, potential sleeper there in Chicago. Not totally into David Montgomery. Elijah Moore, you said? Elijah Moore is nice. Rashad Penny in there. And then I think I may be missing one other guy that you said. But
having 2 Seahawks on your team is a mistake. Guys, I know.
Penny and DK?
I know.
I don't mind DK though. Like he you're right. You have it's a high upside team. Like if Allen's going as quarterback 1, CMC we know is still like when he plays, he's still like the best top 3 running back, top 3 fantasy player in football. DK, we talked about DK last week on the show, right? I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in 4 games with Geno. He actually, produce. He had 6.8 more fantasy points per game, small sample with Geno compared to Russell Wilson. So it's not the end of the world. Michael Thomas is like that wild card for you, right? Like what Michael Thomas are you getting? And we're going to talk about him and the Saints today. I don't hate this team. I think you're a little thin maybe at wide receiver, but I guess that's kind of the way it goes when you draft a guy like Josh Allen kind of early. What was that? Your second pick when it came back around?
No, third or fourth.
Okay.
I think I went. Right. I think it went CMC, James Conner. Then I may have done Allen third, right after James Conner. Okay. I'm at the turn, and I wanted Allen. Lots of guys waited and picked Kirk Cousins with their last pick. Well, that's fine. They're not Josh Allen.
Right.
If he plays every game, he will be the number one quarterback.
Yes,
and you could say that about every player. If you're drafting because you think somebody might get hurt or they're this or they're that, you failed. You failed because guys are going to get hurt. It's the NFL. People are going to miss games. Look at CMC. I get that he's the last two. Look at 2 years ago, I drafted him number one, and he broke my heart. The reality is this: it's not soft tissue. We talked about this on last week's show. If it's hamstring, if it's groin, if it's something like that, I worry. If it's Achilles, I worry. But if it's structural can be repaired. You're talking to a person that had a torn ACL under a year ago, and I'm almost 100%. And I am not a level of athlete that these guys are. So CMC, if he plays, even if he plays 14 games, I think he'll still be the number one. So I've got the number one player at two positions. It's a good place to start in a 12-team league where everyone is unbelievable. So
everyone is unbelievable, and don't downplay your athleticism, sir. I just want to say that to you. Yeah, no, this team looks good. Like it will hang, right? Treylon Burks is a guy that will start to fall down boards because of these mixed reports, but there's not a lot going on there in Tennessee. Like there's some upside with him. You got yourself a Nashville boy. Obviously, Tennessee area. He's not from Nashville, but you know what I mean. If you could go back now doing the draft, like is there now you can kind of sit back and reevaluate your team and the league and how it went? Were there any surprises? Were there things maybe you would have done differently or that you learned, or what do you think?
I have a terrible memory, so I don't know what wide receivers were available when I picked Allen, but I have a feeling I picked Allen because there was no like stud number ones. You're in that kind of like that mucky kind of like late number one, early number two kind of receivers where like the reality of receivers now again is every team is using 3 and 4 of these guys. There's Cooper Kupp, there's Justin Jefferson, there's Stephon Diggs. And I mean, that's to me the only 3 guaranteed. People want to say Devontae Adams. We don't know. Devontae Adams isn't playing in Green Bay anymore and isn't playing with Aaron Rodgers. He's playing with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but anyone that tells me that Derek Carr is as good as Aaron Rodgers is a fool. Aaron Rodgers is maybe technicality-wise, the best quarterback in the NFL. He can do everything. He can make every throw. He can run. He can, he's a weird dude. Let's be honest, but he is an unbelievable quarterback, and Derek Carr is not him. So we'll see with Devontae Adams. We'll see.
There is you're right about the significant gap between. It's all right to say that the quarterback position is super deep, and you wait for a guy like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr late. In the FTN mock draft that we just did, I did that, I'm not going to lie and say that. I wouldn't feel much better about my squad if I had a top 5 quarterback. Like, I don't think Derek Carr is going to be a top 5 quarterback. I think he's going to be serviceable. He could finish as a top 10. He could hang around in that 10 to 13 range and you can be okay. But you do have an advantage on most. I kind of like to live in that maybe Jalen Hurts is quarterback 5 or 6, maybe Burrow, Brady in there as well. Jay, be looking down at my dad gut when EY says he's not as athletic as CMC. I think it's fantastic. Jay, are you guys in the same league? We want to get going here with some of our team previews, but we're a big fan of yours here on this show. We appreciate the support. So I'd love to hear your squad as well. I haven't had a chance to look at all the teams. Jake, we will get together on All in Football tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll address it. And I'd like to actually hit up some people. No, he's not in the Superflex. Okay. But yours wasn't Superflex though, right? Yours.
No,
he's in the Superflex and you're not.
He's in the Superflex. Okay. I'm in the Standard. The first year I played in Flex and nobody knew who I was except for Jake. I won. flex. I mean, really, I can probably thank Jake Seelig for kind of putting me on the map. I was kind of doing some stuff with FNSTY, where I met you and where I met him. And he's like, hey, do you want to be in this pro draft? I was like, dude, like, I'm not a pro. I do this for fun on the side. And he's like, yeah, but, like, it'll be fun and whatever. So I agreed to come and fly to New York and do the draft, and had a blast and met all these amazing people, and met Jeff there, met Elliot, our friend Elliot, Chris there, which is probably the reason why I'm at FTN. So it's just a really fun event, filled with great people. Me and Barons walking back to our hotel. We stayed at the same hotel last year, and walking back at like 3 a.m. and eating pizza like sloths. It was it's a good time, man. Fantasy football people like and know how to drink, and that's why I fit in.
Oh man, fantastic! So I missed out. I'm hoping to see you and Jay there next year, and Pisa Pia and Sealy and the crew that you mentioned as well. I haven't seen Pisa Pia in 2 years.
He's one of my very good friends. I'm heartbroken I didn't get to go, man. I tried everything. I even was going to fly to Philadelphia and take the train, but it wouldn't have put me there in time anyway. So I tried everything. I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy enough to drive 14 and a half hours. I'm sorry, Jake.
Man, I do that once a year, going to Toronto and back. It's taxing to have a drive like that. I do
like that, but I'm not. I just can't do that,
man. No. You do what you can. These flights are crazy. That's a topic for another day. These flights, man, the cancellations and things. If you want to go somewhere, it's almost like you have to.
I travel for a living. Every week, I'm living on the razor's edge. I'm living on the razor's edge here.
It's wild.
I fly for a living. Wild. Try flying to Europe. Good luck.
No.
Good luck.
Tell you what, if you're flying into Toronto or you having any pit stops, Billy Bishop is the way to go. I had a pretty good experience. Billy Bishop flies right downtown Toronto. You avoid Pearson, and Porter will take care of you because you get free booze on the flight, and you get a pretty decent view of the city while you're sitting there waiting. So I would highly suggest, and the security lines are not long at all, so I would highly suggest that. But yeah, good times. When I was there, I got together with Nando and Pisa Pia and Elliot as well, and Jake, of course, Adam Ronis. We were all downtown New York at like a video game bar, and I thought it was like one of the coolest things ever. Everybody was just gaming, playing video games, drinking some pops, and talking about their fantasy squads. With that out of the way, let's get going. Let's talk about the Bucs. The Tampa Bay Bucs. We're here to break down the NFC South. There are a couple brutal teams in this division. They're led here by one of the best teams still in football, as Brady retired for a minute. I don't even know if he officially retired. I think there was a report that he retired. He was ticked off that the report leaked, and he said, screw you guys, I'm not retiring. I'm coming back one more year. 11.5 is the win total.
Retired, right?
Yeah, okay, this is good.
He's a psycho.
He's a psycho. Yeah, he was pissed. Like, what do you mean I'm retired? I'm coming back. Bucs, heavy favorites to win this division. You see the total 11.5. You can't get 10.5. You can't get 10. You can get, a couple different numbers here. Use our free prop shop. It's linked inside the description of this video over at ftnbets.com. The Bucs are massive favorites wherever you look. The Saints plus 360, 8.5. The Panthers at 10-1, 6.5. And then the Atlanta Falcons, long shots here at 28-1 to win the division. Let's go back over to the Bucs here. George, if you can bring that up, just there straight up. Yes, here we go. So again, minus 286 is like the best number, but you're never going to bet this. Why would you do it? You could do division parlays together. It stinks to throw your money out there and you don't get it for a while, especially if it's just on like one win total or one division preview. But you could maybe go Bucs and Rams and Bills and then chuck in like a Colts and maybe get yourself 5-1 for like a 4-leg division future parlay. I do expect this team to kind of roll through this division. They've had issues with the Saints over the past couple seasons, but no Peyton on that squad. There's some question marks in New Orleans. In Tampa, plus 333, as you saw there, to win the NFC. George, I know I'm rambling. I need you to see that one more time, dude. Best record. I wanted to put these things in because it's very possible, right? Like there may not be a lot of value for them to win the division. In fact, there's none. Plus 333 to win the conference, to be the first seed 3-1, to have the best record overall in the NFL 5-1, to win the Super Bowl. I actually think there's still some value at plus 750. And then 13-4 last year. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They brought the band back together. Things don't always work out. In fact, they really don't for champions in the next year. Like what we talk about on Dangle Betzelli with the Lightning, it's super rare. With this Tampa Bay team, they had some injuries last year. And heading into this season, there's no Gronk. Chris Godwin looks like he's ready to go for week 1. A hamstring injury popped up for Mike Evans. It's kind of the usual with Mike Evans, but at the end of the day, this is a guy that really churns out 1,000 yards, flirts with double-digit touchdowns. And then they acquired Russell Gage. Leonard Fournette checked into camp a little bit overweight, and he's lost at least half of that. Rashard White is a guy that they drafted. Running back in there, they lost Ronald Jones. But this team is still one of the best in the NFL. And man, I think they have not just a clear path to win this division, but a clear path to, at least get to, I don't know, the NFC Conference Championship game against the Packers, who can't seem to win a playoff game, or the Rams. Like, tell me I'm wrong. I think this Bucs team they got high aspirations. They should be in the Final Four.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. And I would say, okay, look at Rob Gronkowski. You can say whatever you want, but that's Tom Brady's blanket, that's his blankie, his teddy bear. He doesn't know what to do. He can throw it to this giant human being that will just, body guys out of position. Rob Gronkowski, in the end, could very well, and I think most likely, be in the Hall of Fame. One of the best tight ends ever. They can line him up in the line. He's an unbelievable blocker. He's an unbelievable pass catcher. He's an unbelievable route runner. He's a winner. And him and Tom Brady together have just been an absolutely automatic, deadly duo forever. Him not being there is problematic for Tom Brady, I believe. But he's still got LeGarrette Blount, who he likes to throw it to. LeGarrette Blount doesn't jump off the screen. Fournette. Good God.
And former teammate, though, Blount and Brady.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette is what I was trying to say. Thank you, man. He catches a ton of balls. He's not going to jump off the screen with his athleticism or anything, but he's a big dude. He can take the punishment. Bigger than he's supposed to be right now, but apparently, that's coming off. And the truth is, looking at it, this could be his best wide receiving core that he's ever played with. If Julio Jones is even 75% of what Julio Jones is, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with, what was his name, Givens or Deion Branch as his best, as his number one receiver.
Yeah, he had some brutal wideouts in New England.
And people will say, oh, well, he was younger. He's the same athlete. Tom Brady might be a better athlete now than he was then because of his crazy diet and his crazy preparation. He is not a good athlete. He's a slug. And I've said that before. I've said it on other shows, and I'm saying it now. Tom Brady, athletically, is a slug compared to the NFL. I think out of, say, the starting 32 quarterbacks, he's probably the worst athlete. Let that soak in.
I know.
The worst,
and the success
athlete,
that he's had, right?
And the level. He's the best football player ever, and I don't think it's arguable. So I love the Bucs. I love the offense. I think Ndamukong Suh not being on the defense is going to be a gap that, him playing on the nose and pressuring people in the middle and stopping the run. It's not a position that is highlighted, is not something that people talk about, but that starts the tone for defense is pressuring quarterbacks up the middle, making them have to roll out, make them have to move, making them have to slide, pressure in their face. He's a massive difference maker, and I don't think he can be replaced. He's probably a Hall of Fame player on the defensive end, and but I still like Tom Brady as a quarterback. I still like the Tampa Bay offense, but pick your poison with the receivers. Good luck trying to guess.
I know you're not wrong. I actually forgot about Julio, although I don't expect him to do too much. It's kind of like the Antonio Brown thing. Right? He might be, or maybe you can give a little bit of what Antonio Brown gave when he won that championship too. It was a nice trio with Brown and Godwin and Evans, and then you have Russell Gage, who had 2 really good seasons in back-to-back years with Atlanta, a very bad football team, but he was reliable. None of that was on him. He's got good hands. He can kind of work in the slot. They could do some things there with him. And then Julio is just, maybe he's on a pitch count. They just have him I don't think he's going to be super fantasy relevant. He's going as wide receiver 71 over the last 4 weeks since the addition of getting signed. So, for example, in around that range, like Nico Collins, your boy, Van Jefferson, Robbie Anderson, Alec Pierce, George Pickens. So you're just really, he's not, at that point, wide receiver 71, ADP of 175 NFFC leagues. He's not really even getting drafted in your standard league. And I don't suggest he would be a target for you if you're just playing with 11 of your buddies or 9 of your buddies, where you just roll out 3 wide receivers and you got 5 bench spots. But his min pick is 88. So to kind of put that into perspective, the min pick I'm seeing of guys in the 80s is Now we're into the range of like Rondale Moore, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Boyd, Marquez Valdez, Scantling, Kenny Golladay, Sky Moore. I'd much rather have Sky Moore, Tyler Boyd than these guys. So I think the Julio edition is really just good for Tom Brady as and the team itself to have another weapon in there. They picked up Kyle Rudolph, who is not fantastic, but he could be a player for Tom Brady inside the red zone. Cameron Brate had more red zone targets last year than Rob Gronkowski, believe it or not. He's actually a pretty good tight end. So they have some options there at the tight end position. They did lose O.J. Howard, but they still have some good defensive players, man. Like Devin White is one of my favorite linebackers in the league. I still think Levante David has things to offer, and Shaquille Barrett, like Jameel Dean. They still have some really good players in Tampa Bay. But let's talk about some of their weapons offensively. So we kind of touched on some of them, but George, you have the board of kind of where these guys are going over the last 2 months of NFFC leagues. I don't know if you brought it up earlier or not, but Tom Brady, like, look at this. This is, to me, I think one of the reasons why I am okay to wait it out at the quarterback position. Tom Brady is going as quarterback 8. I've seen him go, in our FTN mock, he went as quarterback 10. Trey Lance went ahead of Tom Brady. Tom Brady last year finished as quarterback 3. 374 points, 6 behind Justin Herbert, and then 26 behind Josh Allen. Brady led everybody in the NFL with 719 pass attempts. Next up with Justin Herbert at 672. He led all quarterbacks in passing yards with 5,316. That's 5,300 yards. I just said it in a weird way. That's 300 more than Justin Herbert. He led all quarterbacks in touchdown passes with 43, 2 more than Matthew Stafford. The Bucs, in terms of pace of play and percentage, some of our tools over at FTNFantasy.com. This team played at a very fast pace. They were, number 7 in the NFL, 25.9 seconds per snap. All the other teams up at the top, the Chargers played at a fast pace. The Cowboys played at a fast pace. Everybody else were teams that were brutal and had to play quick to play from behind. Jacksonville Jaguars, fastest pace. Jets, number 4. Seahawks, Pirates. Jeez, baseball's on my mind. Steelers, all inside the top 7 in terms of pace of play. Pass percentage, number 1. The Bucs, 66%. That was the percentage of plays that were passing plays.
Crazy.
And this team was up. They only lost 4 games last year. So they just play pedal to the metal. They don't care. It's not Brady like Brady with the Pats when they were up at a bit and then they just run the rock. It was just like, we don't care. We're going to try to score as many points as we can in this game. Brady's trying to set records, 40-plus touchdowns. Dude is going as quarterback 8, quarterback 9, quarterback 10. Like, he finishes top 3 quarterback. I don't feel like he's not going to finish as a top 5 quarterback this year.
Very well could be. I mean, what scares me is that, no running. He's never ran. He'll get a goal yard sneak here and there. And, give you
2 rushing touchdowns.
Whatever, 50 to 75 yards, whatever. But, I mean, I'm not saying anything that anyone watching this show doesn't know. A running quarterback is just at such an advantage.
It's nice to have a nice floor. Yeah.
It's just, you just have such an advantage with a quarterback that can run and that is going to run. It's going to be part of his game. I don't know if there's a way to fix that. It's just the reality is over time, people have understood that even a guy that throws for 5,000 yards, if he doesn't run, he's not as valuable. And there's not as much upside for someone that throws for 3,500 yards and runs for 3 or 4 touchdowns and 200 or 300 yards. It's just a massive advantage.
Coaster's Corner, what up? Sens fan, right? Oh my goodness, got to be excited about the offseason. Agree that Tampa Bay is too low, Meaney. Tom Brady, yeah. Anyways, I got him as a top 5 quarterback. He's clearly not getting drafted as a top 5 quarterback. He's a good mid-round value if you don't go, the Josh Allen Herbert way. I would pass on Mahomes. I'm not interested in Dak Prescott, really. I'm not interested in Aaron Rodgers. Burrow's kind of going a little bit too early for me. I think he's a great target. And I have no issues with any of their guys. Mike Evans may fall down the draft board a little bit, but as we said earlier, he's just a guy at the end of the day. He's going to finish with 1,000 yards, flirt with double-digit touchdowns. Chris Godwin looks like he's going to be ready. So if you've been drafting early, you got a really good discount on Chris Godwin. I'm not totally in on Russell Gage, new offense, a lot of different moving pieces there. Just adding Julio Jones. But I do like Leonard Fournette as we wrap up from this conversation. I want to get your thoughts on maybe the backfield, but Fournette is a guy that, because Brady threw the ball so much, he finished inside the top 5 in targets, in catches, and receiving yards. For running backs, there's no real competition, let's be honest. Ronald Jones is gone. Rashad White is a nice player. I like his future. Of course, they're a win-now team, right? You look at in the future, there's going to be a new quarterback in Tampa, and then White is the running back of the future on that squad. But, it's very important to have a solid pass blocker there to protect Tom Brady at this point of his career. And he can do that. Say what you want about Fournette's weight and him being out of shape and things like that, but he is a good pass blocker. He's a veteran back. He's a great pass catcher because he overtook that role last year when Ronald Jones was dropping balls and Giovanni Bernard couldn't stay healthy. So Fournette is going to be on the field all the time. He's going to be the goal line back in this offense. If you draft Fournette early, maybe end of second as your RB1, I think that's perfectly fine, especially in a full point setting. And it's okay to kind of handcuff him with White. And then you have that Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield that's going to win 12 or 13 games. It's going to be a top 5 offense. It's going to beat up on so many brutal teams in the NFC. So Fournette is probably going to fall into another 10 touchdowns or so, maybe 50-plus grabs. So I am completely in on him. He's probably one of my favorite targets, actually. I don't know how you feel if you want to wrap up with maybe your favorite Bucs target. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to pick a Buck, it's going to be LeGarrette Blount. I feel he's probably going a little
Blunt's
too
on
high.
your mind. LeGarrette Blount is on your mind. Oh,
LeGarrette
baby.
Blount.
What is going on? Where's the bats, George?
Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette. Go Ducks. Go Oregon Ducks. Leonard Fournette. I mean, the reality is the weight. He'll be back to playing shape by the time the season starts. I get they're mad about it, but whatever. He's never, he's a big dude. And this is what it comes down to. Tom Brady, trust him. And that's it. That he's not coming off the field.
Exactly.
Tom Brady, there's legendary stories of him not even talking to rookies. He's just, he wants people that he can trust. He doesn't care about their athleticism. He wants them to be trusted in blocking, and he wants them to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. He doesn't care about anything else. So he's the orchestrator, and Leonard Fournette won't come off the field if he gets hurt. White is a great stash. If you have Fournette, then I would try to handcuff him with White later on because you can get him late, really late, maybe even last.
Yeah, I agree. And Fournette only played 14 games last year. In terms of targets and catches per game, he was number 1. I think he was tied with Swift in terms of targets at 6 each, and then.
And they're all dump offs, right? It's not like they're
lot of them are.
He's not running routes or advanced things.
He's been doing that for years. James White, here you go. Here you go. You know what I mean? He's just been. It's not Brady's nuts. He's trying to get the ball out quick. It's out quick, and most of the times it's kind of short passes. Okay, let's move on. Tampa Bay, we're done with them. Let's go to the Saints. New Orleans Saints.
28 minutes in. Here we go.
We're good. We're a good time. We're good here. We're not going to spend too much time on the Falcons. We're sorry, ATL fans. Jermaine Dupree. Okay, Saints. Really good defense, right? Strong defense. Couldn't get into the playoffs last year. Had a bit of a stumble down the stretch. They lost to the Eagles, and the Eagles had that tiebreaker. 9-8. Win total 8.5. 4-1 to win the NFC South. 22-1 to win the conference, and 45-1 to win the Super Bowl. So there are certainly some changes with this squad. Of course, Sean Payton leaving is the biggest change. Dennis Allen is there, kind of a defensive-minded coach. So this is just the opposite of what we talked about here with the Bucs and the Saints. So we talked about this the Bucs pass rate at 66%. The rush rate for New Orleans, 48%, was the third highest in the NFL. The Eagles at 49%, Tennessee number 2. Those are 2 run-heavy teams. And then the Saints in there as well as San Fran, Indy, Cleveland, New England. Just what you would expect. Teams that like to run the rock. This is a team last year that ran the rock. Now they had nobody really at the quarterback position. Jameis went down. He looked okay at start. Remember, he had that big game against the Packers. He threw like 5 touchdowns and like 15 completions. He was super efficient, and they beat Green Bay. And everyone's like, "What's going on with Green Bay?" And Green Bay was just fine. And then the Saints kind of went downhill. We didn't see Michael Thomas all last year. We really haven't seen him for 2 years, as we touched on the top of the show. They draft Chris Olave in the first round. Made a big move with the Eagles, swapping first. The Eagles got a couple firsts next year. I think there was a good trade for Philly. Maybe, kind of. New Orleans is kind of certainly in a win now situation. So they wanted, I think, to get a rookie wide receiver, and they got one in Chris Olave. They got a vet in Jarvis Landry. Thomas looks like he's coming back. He's running routes. He looks fine. They got Mark Ingram still. There's some questions about Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara is going outside that top 10 at the running back position. George, we can bring up some of their weapons here. I've seen him go in the 4th round. There's some uncertainty with Alvin Kamara, but he finished as a top 5 running back in points per game last season. And overall, he was RB9. He's a great pass catcher, one of the best in the league. He can run between the tackles still. Ingram's not offering a whole lot at this point of his career. But let's be honest, there is a risk in drafting Kamara because we don't know if he's going to be suspended this year. He could be suspended. It's possible. I've heard mixed reports that, that the suspension could come next season. If that case gets dragged on a little bit, then the season already starts. And then this is a suspension that's happening next season. It could be 2 games this year. It could be 4. It could be 6. Nobody knows. And that's why he's going where he's going, because let's be honest, if that cloud wasn't over his head, he would be going as a top 5, top 6, top 7 running back. I really, truly believe that. Are you willing to take the risk? Clearly, you're willing to take the risk on Michael Thomas. Are you willing to take the risk on Alvin Kamara?
Again, it all depends on where. You mean, like you said, like if that suspension could come this year. I think at this point, looking at the NFL track record and how these things are handled and the speed of the justice system, which is a snail's pace for the most part, he's going to get suspended. He's going to miss games. There's video of him punching a guy in an elevator at the
in Las Vegas, right?
At the the Pro Bowl weekend in Las Vegas. So he's definitely going to. If that's this season, where he's going is way too high, and if he doesn't, then it's a massive, massive value. So I feel like there's a player like this every year. There's some kind of a player that could get suspended and might not get suspended. If he gets suspended, you're just behind. You're going to be behind all year because a player that you took in the 2nd and 3rd round isn't going to play for 6 games. That's almost half of the season, half of the fantasy season. So even if you win 3 of those games, which is unlikely if you lose a player that you drafted that high, where you could have picked somebody else that's going to play, it's a massive risk. But like you said, he's good at everything. I still love the player, but I'm probably going to avoid him because I know there's uncertainty. It has nothing to do with injury. There's injury risk for every single player. It has everything to do with he might miss 6 games, and where he's going, it's too rich for my blood.
Yeah, he's certainly a wild card. I haven't drafted him anywhere. I'm not really sure I'm going to. I have him in one of my dynasty leagues, and I've been trying to unload him. And then
you'll either look smart or look stupid, right? It's one of those things.
Yeah, I've been trying to unload him, and then this video thing surfaced where he was a moron, and then now I can't unload him, right? I can't get proper value for him. It's just like, oh, boo-hoo, feel bad for me. But I've been trying to trade this guy in dynasty leagues. Once these guys get I try to trade a year before they fall off. I have him and Eckler in a dynasty league, and I'm actually just trying to trade these guys and get a little bit younger at the running back position. But I think if you leave with Kamara, you want to leave with Mark Ingram. I think it's that simple, and it's not even going to cost you a whole lot. George, just bring that board up one more time, buddy. Look at that price on Ingram. It's nothing. It's free. RB62. Nobody wants this guy. I get it. He hasn't done anything in the past couple seasons, right? He caught a few passes last year, but if you leave and you're like, okay, I want Kamara, I'm willing to take that risk. Wow, I'm getting him in the 3rd or 4th round. I'm getting him as RB 14, 15, and I know he can be a top 10 guy. I'll just kind of figure it out for the first 6 weeks of the season, or at some point in the season, whenever the suspension happens. If it does, if it doesn't, great, good for you. If it does, you have Ingram, and Ingram's going to be the guy there, at least for the games that Kamara is out. They don't really have anybody else that's going to step in and get 1st down, 2nd down carries and catch some passes. So it's not going to cost you a whole lot. You get a cheap handcuff, and you can make it work, and he would be fine. I think he'd be at least a top 30 running back, Ingram, without Kamara. So you can roll him out as your RB2 or your flex and move on that way. There's something to be said about Jameis as we can wrap up here from the Saints. There's something to be said about Jameis. Quarterback 20, bats on George. Yeah. Going cheap, right? Basically free. Small sample last year. Very different Jameis from his time in Tampa. He was chucking 40+ times a game in Tampa. I mean, he led the league in I think passing yards and touchdowns, but also interceptions. Sean Payton I don't know if Sean Payton fixed him. I don't know if it's going to be a similar type of offense. I just don't know, honestly. We're kind of speculating on how this offense would look, but Winston wasn't throwing to these guys last year. He didn't have Olave. He didn't have Landry. He didn't have Thomas. So to add in these guys over, I don't know, I don't want to call these guys scrubs, but let's be honest, Marcus Callaway, like these guys weren't doing anything for the Saints last year. So it's a cheap stack in best ball leagues. Not going to cost you anything. You don't have to spend a top 30 pick on any wide receiver. Jameis is going around quarterback 20. You could either get Olave or Landry, whatever you want to do there. And then you have a Saints stack that, I mean, the defense is really good. It's been one of the best run defenses in football. The line is missing a couple pieces from last year, but this team will hang around. And Jameis could be a league winner in Superflex. He could be a strong quarterback 2 or somebody that you can target as a quarterback 3. Anything else you want to say about the Saints? Do you think they're a playoff team? Because the NFC is pretty.
I think they are. I mean,
I think they are.
Just on the fact that their defense is really, really good. If Kamara plays the entire season, I don't see how they can't. How they won't be in the playoffs. I think Winston, like you were saying, I think he's going to take a big step here. I don't know. It's a gut feeling. I don't have anything to back that up, except for we've seen him look at interceptions when he played in Tampa were out of control, but this guy can throw the ball. He's not afraid to throw the ball. If he's got Michael Thomas, Olave, who can really burn. They got Landry as a kind of security blanket, and then they got Troutman. And don't forget, Hill's going to be part of this offense. They're paying him a ton of money. He's a freak athlete. I think they're going to, there'll be a ton of trick plays. They'll light him up at tight end. And they'll put him in the slot. I mean, he'll run, kind of do like a hybrid Deebo Samuel where he'll run the ball from the running back position, I believe, some this year. So that's a really interesting, late round guy too.
Yeah, I mean, 14 touchdowns for Jameis last season and only 3 interceptions. It was a different guy, and he was only passing the ball 20 times a game, but they were playing at a slow pace because I don't think they had any weapons, and they were just really running the rock. So things could be different. But the one thing I'll say before this, it's not like this team is nowhere near the Bucs team where their defense was so bad and they had to throw so much to kind of play catch up, where this defense can hold them in games, and it doesn't need to be Jameis chucking the ball 40 plus times. But man, the guy was efficient last year for sure. Completion percentage wasn't great, but 59% is, I mean, we've seen worse, but 1,100 yards, 17 fantasy points per game, 14 to 3 touchdown interception ratio. Not too bad. I think there's some upside with Jameis in this offense.
Yep.
Let's move on to Carolina. So 6.5, going to be another rough year for them, I do believe. 10-1 to win the division, 66-1 to win the conference. Long shot to win the Super Bowl. 5 W's last year for this squad. Baker Mayfield was the big addition for Carolina. Matt Rule, head coach of the Panthers, have been trying to figure out this position, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, trading some picks for Sam Darnold, locking him up, and now they're trying to get out of this contract, and then they acquire Baker Mayfield. I don't think Baker is a game changer by any means, but I do believe this is an upgrade at the quarterback position. Apparently, he threw a touchdown pass in practice this week, and everybody went nuts. And Matt Rule freaked out and said, "Why are you guys celebrating a random Baker Mayfield touchdown pass?" But Baker's one of those guys that people seem to like him on the team. I mean, for me, outside of Cleveland, I've been to a couple Browns games. I see the passion that he has on the sidelines. Dude wants to win more than ever. We brought Cleveland to the playoffs. Not only did he bring them to the playoffs, a team that never, ever made the playoffs, they won a playoff game against the Steelers. So does the addition of Baker Mayfield make you feel any better about DJ Moore? Because that's all that happens. When I did a draft on SiriusXM with Howard Bender, he said, "Why DJ Moore? Why are you picking DJ?" He basically said he didn't like him because of the quarterback play, and that was with Sam Darnold. And that's all anybody says. DJ Moore is a really good wide receiver, but the upside isn't hit. The ceiling isn't hit because the quarterback play is not great. Are you in or out on Mr. Moore?
I mean, if you look over the last 3 years, DJ Moore has had a pretty solid floor with absolutely putrid quarterback play. Baker Mayfield is he not the best quarterback that DJ Moore's ever played with?
Yes.
And we've been talking about DJ Moore for a long time. I think he's 23 years old. He's still a very young player. I think the best DJ Moore is yet to still happen. And I believe it happens this year. Look I talk about this on the hockey show, and the narrative is Baker Mayfield was drafted very high by the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns really only put him in a position to be a good quarterback one season. He's been hurt, or the coaching and play calling has been terrible. I think the Carolina Panthers is by far, and it's not even close to the best team that Baker Mayfield has ever played on, college, pro, or anywhere. He's got weapons at the running back position. He's got weapons at the wide receiver position. And all he has to do is not mess up. Now, we've seen Baker Mayfield mess up, but I think he's going to come out, and the narrative is this: Baker Mayfield has a lot to prove. He's in commercials. He's one of the most recognizable players in the league, but really hasn't done anything. And he knows that. And he was discarded and thrown away in Cleveland for a quarterback that's probably not going to play for them, which, that's another story for another day.
Think he has a chip on his shoulder? Think Baker Mayfield has a chip on his shoulder?
Massive chip. He was thrown away like a piece of trash from the team that he, like you said, he took them to the playoffs for the first time, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, a rival of theirs.
Crushed them. Not only did they beat them, they spanked them. They smoked them. Yeah.
Baker Mayfield is going to play angry. Baker Mayfield is going to play inspired. Baker Mayfield is going to have the best season of his professional career, and it's going to happen under the watch of Rule. And Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, and I know that's a big if, this team is going to be very, very hard to beat. They have a good defense too.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's defense is probably a little bit more sound, but they do have some up-and-coming players. Like, they did a good job in the draft over the past couple of years. I think like 3 years ago, they were one of the first teams ever to just draft defensive players. So they've been really trying to fix that side of the football. Man, you said it perfectly. I mean, I'm a Baker fan. I don't think he's really fantasy relevant, but you could take last year and just forget about it. He was playing through multiple injuries, so you can forget about that. Jarvis Landry was certainly serviceable for the couple of years that those guys were together. There wasn't really a connection with Odell Beckham Jr. Some of that was on OBJ. Some of that was on Baker. A lot of that was on the coaching staff, right? Freddie Kitchens came in 1 year and was awful. He's one of the worst coaches I've ever seen in my life. Play calling was atrocious. It was brutal. So, what I will say about DJ Moore, these are the receiving yard leaders since 2019. Cooper Kupp, number 1, 4,000 yards. Devontae Adams, number 2, 3,900 yards. Stephon Diggs, number 3, 3,800 yards. Travis Kelce, number 4, 3,700 yards. DJ Moore, number 5. He has the 4th most yards among wide receivers over the last 3 seasons. Nobody talks about that, right? Nobody talks about that. The floor is there. The one issue is the touchdowns. Over that span, he has 12 touchdowns. For example, Kupp has 29, Adams has 34, Diggs has 24, Kelce has 25. So he doesn't have those touchdowns. He's not a big body wide receiver. He's not a guy that really is targeted.
They're coming though, right? If you look at the PFF stats, it's a positive regression is coming. He's targeted a ton in the red zone. He's just snake bit for whatever reason, and I think that has everything to do with the accuracy of the balls coming from the quarterback side that he's played with. Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback he's ever played with. That's not saying a whole lot.
It's not saying a ton, but it is a correct statement. I do agree. Okay, we'll get out of here. I have no problem taking a shot on maybe Terrace Marshall, right? Is year number 2. Maybe he can learn the playbook a little bit more. He's going to be free. I'd rather him than Robbie Anderson. I have no problem with CMC. I would take Taylor and Kupp over him, but I have no problem with CMC. I think it's certainly there's a high reward there. There's a little bit of risk, but there's a high reward there. And I would just pair him up with Deontay. Right. I would just pair him up with Deontay Foreman. That's the only thing. I just kind of get my handcuff right away.
I got sniped in the draft.
I was going to ask you that earlier if you got sniped with him. It's just like just in case, right? We saw Chuba Hubbard kind of be okay last year, and a couple of years ago, everybody had to spend that fab on Mike Davis, and he was fine. But it is what it is. Foreman's a really good back, but if you compare those guys up, I think it's fine. I make it a priority. And then we'll wrap up here with the Atlanta Falcons. We've got about 3 minutes here to talk about Atlanta. Unfortunately, for those Falcons fans that want to hear more, we don't really have a whole lot to say about this squad. 4.5 is the win total. Long shots to win the division, the conference, and, of course, the Super Bowl. 7-12. They did make some additions as we transitioned over to some of their weapons, George. Kyle Pitts is on this squad. Of course, he is unbelievable. You see Marcus Mariota, who is familiar with the coaching staff there in Atlanta. Arthur used to be the offensive coordinator in Tennessee with Mariota, which you are very familiar with as well. They draft Desmond Ridder. Cordero Patterson had the big breakout season last year. Drake London is a wide receiver that they drafted early this past season. Tyler Algier is a running back that they drafted as well. Brian Edwards, I think, is a pretty good buy low. From Las Vegas. He's a former, I think, 3rd-round pick. There was a lot of hype with him that he could be the next Dez Bryant. We just didn't really see him get targeted in Las Vegas. He was playing behind a couple guys, and they bring in Adams, so there's no room for him. He's not a guy that's going to create a lot of separation, but I think he could be okay, actually. Like, he's not even going to get drafted in your standard league, but I wouldn't be shocked if he showed up at one point in the season. He probably ran a lot of, second team offense with Mariota in Las Vegas. So these guys could be familiar with each other. There's certainly an opportunity for playing time when it comes for Drake London and Bryan Edwards. Honestly, there's two guys I want on that list. It's Kyle Pitts. Over 1,000 yards, can line up all over the place. He's a freak. He's a mismatch all over the field. Only had one touchdown. It came in London. He'll get more touchdowns, even though there's a drop-off at the quarterback play with no Matt Ryan. And Tyler Algier. I think, is in a really good landing spot to not only get first and second down opportunities, but goal line work. Cordell Patterson had a great season. I think it's going to be an outlier. Credit Matt Ryan and the Falcons to find a way to use him, but I don't believe he's a guy that's going to run between the tackles often as like a 10-carry guy. They could line him up all over the field and catch some passes. He can do some red zone target stuff, but Damian Williams is on the squad, is same type of back, not between the tackles. Algier could be the goal line back for this offense. It's not a good one, but he could be the goal line back, and he should lead this team in carries. I do fully believe that. I'm sorry I went so long, but you got about 30 seconds to kind of make a case for one Falcon you really like, and then we'll say goodbye to Game Plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Kyle Pitts. I think he could end the season as the number one. Look at predicting touchdowns is a fool's errand, so don't even try it. Just look at the volume. Look at how often he was on the field. Look at how often he was targeted. It's going to continue and might even be even more this year. I mean, often tight ends don't do a whole lot in their first year. He did set a record. So I think his productivity and his volume will grow each year. Like you said, I love Algier. And I think Marcus Mariota in the Superflex, he could be real sneaky. Dude can run.
I think he could be too.
Dude can really run, and he's got something to prove as well. If he can stay healthy and play with this team, I think he could be a really, really good pickup really late in drafts.
I agree. The only reason I can't pull the trigger on London, I think he's going to be a terrific wide receiver in this league, especially when they lock in a quarterback, is because Kadarius Toney and like Alan Lazard are kind of going right in that range. And I think I'd rather those other two guys, but we do got to get out of here. It's going to be a rough year for the Falcons, but they are on the rise. I think Algier could actually be a league winner. I think he could be a strong low-end RB2, and Pitts is fantastic. Don't be worried about Pitts. I think he probably finishes as like tight end 2 or 3 for sure on the year. All right, Eric Young, myself, Chris Meaney, George, we appreciate you guys hanging out. Any questions, hit us up. We're sorry we went short on the Falcons, but maybe I'll drop some notes on our YouTube page. Have a good one. We'll see you on Thursday. Cheers.